Hey, what is going on, Wildlife X team? It's Michael here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Black Death, the bubonic plague, the Great Plague, all those crazy diseases and kind of what happened, some interesting statistics, how it could have been prevented, and just making an interesting video for you to enjoy about all of these crazy events that were happening during those chaotic times. Without further ado, here it is. So the 1665 Great Plague was actually the bubonic disease. It's a very horrible disease. It causes a horrible death, causes lots of vomiting, headaches, kind of sores that kind of just pop up. That's why it's called the bubonic plague. And because of all of that, it is a disease which can be very easily transmitted. Just think, if you're throwing up, if you're vomiting, if you have huge sores and you're spreading fluids all over the place, that's going to be very likely for the disease to spread. It was also spreading through rats and fleas, which were really spreading it, and then also just poor hygiene and a lack of scientific knowledge all contributed towards this disease almost destroying kind of civilization. It took over quite a bit of Europe, the Black Death wiping out an estimated 1/3 of Europe's population, and the Great Plague in London took out like 15 or 20% of the population just in one summer. Thankfully for the Great Plague in the 1666, there was a great fire kind of burning down a lot of London, and while that sounds bad, it was actually very good because it killed off a lot of the fleas and rats and rodents that were really spreading this disease, and scientists believe it's one of the main reasons why the Great Plague kind of stopped spreading in London. Because of the bubonic plague, which is also referred to as the Black Death, in some cases, whole communities, 80%, 100%, even 25% is pretty messed up. Whole communities were just wiped out, and there were so many corpses and bodies that there wasn't enough people to bury all of the dead, so they would just pile all corpses just in these huge holes. It was called plague pits, where they would just toss a ton of corpses, and then in the communities where there wasn't enough people to make these plague pits, they would literally just throw the dead outside because there wasn't enough people to bury it, or they didn't have the energy, or they just didn't want to be near the corpses at all. In May of 1665, 43 people had died. In June, 6,137 people died. In July, about 17,036 people died. And then at the peak in August, an estimated 31,000 people in London and the UK area died from the Great Plague of 1665. The whole civilization was completely messed up. Just think, in about 4 months, 15% of the population had died. Some people believe that is all the way upwards of 25%, but at least 15% of the whole entire population in London and the UK area was completely wiped out. In some small villages, as much as 80% of the population was wiped out. It completely messed everything up. The plague was so feared that if one person in a household got the bubonic plague, they would lock the entire family in their house, seal it completely shut, condemning the whole family to death. Then they would put a red X on the door so that way people knew that they had a plague, the whole thing, and then they would write, "Lord, have mercy on us." Then at night, someone would come out with a cart and they would yell, "Hey, bring your dead over here," and people would literally just pile corpses onto a cart, and they would take that cart to a plague pit and just toss all the corpses there. No bodies, no gravestones, no respect or anything. It was just such a messed up situation. If someone died, you would just put them right on the cart. There was so much death at that time, and that's why they were condemning whole households as well, because if one person in a household got it, they would think that everybody got it. There also wasn't a whole lot of science around this time too, so sometimes they believed in some pretty messed up things. Like they thought, for example, some people in some places, not all the places, but in some places, they believed that bathing in water was bad because it would actually put water in open sores, making them more likely to get sick. Other doctors believed that foul smells would scare the plague away, so they would put human feces and pee on victims. Needless to say, that did not help at all, and that only continued the spread of it. Some people also believed that cats were the cause of this. They were blaming everything on cats, and so they were going out killing cats. Ironically though, it was actually rodents such as rats and then also fleas that were spreading this disease. And so if people hadn't killed so many cats, those cats would have helped kill the rodents, potentially helping keep the disease down. The King Charles II and his whole court were so afraid of this, they even fled to Oxford. Rich people and people that could escape somehow would also flee out of London. They were trying to get as far away from this as possible, understandably. But a lot of the poor people, where this whole thing kind of began due to poor sanitization and just not having the resources they need, a lot of poor people were forced to stay and endure this whole thing. Also, if you've heard of the child's song, Ring a Ring a Rosies, Pocket full of posies, something like that, if you've heard that or sang that before, that is actually from the Black Death, the bubonic plague, all of those things. It was a song kind of sad because everybody was just dying. It was, if you look into the actual lyrics of that song, it's very messed up actually, and it's just talking about everybody dying because of this horrible disease. All in all, the Black Death, the Great Plague, everything caused from this bubonic illness wiped out the modern day equivalent of Brazil's population. That is an insane number of people. It wiped Europe's population by at least 1/3, and some places just completely destroying everything. But consider that, the entirety of Brazil's population wiped out, of course, all across Europe. That is absolutely insane, and in fact it wiped out so many people and caused so much chaos. It took Europe 150 years for humanity's population to reach the exact same levels that it was at before the plague. All in all, the plague was a really messed up situation. Thankfully, right now we have science, we're able to adapt a lot quicker, we have antibiotics, and so we're going to be able to treat things a lot quicker and prevent, hopefully, these things from happening in the future. They didn't have as much science back then, so people were very quick to blame it on, oh, the planets are aligned, that's what it is, or God hates us, he's going to cause this plague or whatever. Some people even blamed it just on Jews. People just blaming everybody because they didn't really understand why this was happening, so they were just pointing fingers saying, oh, it's the cat, it's God, it's the Jews, it's this, it's that. They didn't know what was causing it, but thankfully these days we can identify causes and treat it much quicker. Like I said, the cause of this was from rats spreading it around. If they didn't have rodents, or they were able to keep their rodents controlled and they had better scientific analysis and kind of just understood things, for example, not putting feces on people and doing other kind of weird stuff like that, it probably wouldn't have got as bad as it actually did. It's kind of hard to say because we're not around in that time. All we can do is be grateful for the technology and ability that we have right now, keep our pests and rodents away from us so that way we don't get diseases, and do the best we can. So hopefully this never happens again. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, kind of a little bit darker, just talking about the bubonic and the Great Plague and Black Death, all that. Thankfully, we're in the modern time, we don't have to worry about that. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any comments about it, leave a comment in the comment section below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more awesome videos. My name is Michael with Wildlife X Team, and we'll see you in the next video.